an invincible army.
I will wipe them out of Judea once and for all.
A final stand.
There'll be no retreat from Masada.
The siege of Masada is the Alamo of the ancient world.
900 people committed suicide here at Masada. It's a story of courageous martyrdom.
Masada is a large fortress and palace complex built by Herod on a high mesa overlooking the Dead Sea. Masada is famous because of the role it played as the site of the rebels' last stand at the end of the Jewish revolt. Josephus tells the story how the Jewish rebels chose suicide rather than surrender to the Romans. Although archaeological excavations have confirmed much of Josephus' account of the rebels' last stands, evidence of a mass suicide is lacking and has been questioned by historians. The site appears to have been abandoned following the Herodian period and was reoccupied a few years later by zealots. Evidence of the Roman destruction of Masada was found everywhere in the excavations, including a large siege ramp on the western side of the Mesa and numerous Roman camps. Josephus was a historian in Rome. He completed the writings of the Jewish War around 80 CE. He concluded this book with a dramatic account of the mass suicide and fall of Masada. Josephus, however, has been seen as an unreliable source, and he did not have first-hand knowledge of many of the events he described, such as Masada. His information would have come from the few women and children who are said to have survived by hiding in caves nearby, or from Roman soldiers. He also has recounted several mass suicides, making it questionable if the mass suicide really happened. And the Roman siege works at Masada, a circumvention wall, camps, and a ramp. The circumvention wall is a standard component of the Roman siege works. Purpose is to cut off those under siege from escaping out and from outsiders coming in to provide assistance to those under siege. It's made of stone and it's 10 to 12 feet high with watchtowers for guards on east side of Masada, which was the level ground. There are 8 Roman camps that were used to house soldiers, all a square plane with gates in the center of each side. Camps vary in size, with camps B and F being the largest. Due to the steep mountain on which Masada was on top of and the narrow paths that were used for normal access, the Romans determined it was not feasible for them to march up the mountain via a normal route. They instead built an enormous ramp on the western side, filling the space between the top of the mountain and the low, white hill nearby. The ramp provided a manageable incline for a formation of Roman soldiers to march up rather than attempt to scale the narrow path in a single file. They also had siege machinery that needed to be taken to the top in order to breach Masada's fortress wall. A large stone platform was built at the top of the ramp. A battering ram was placed on top of the platform and used to break down the wall.
Is it all just a legend? Or did nearly 1,000 men, women, and children really commit suicide rather than be made the slaves of Rome? It's a 2,000-year-old drama, and it's as compelling today as it has ever been. Freedom or death! Freedom or death! Freedom or death!
Josephus reports the leader of the Zealots convened the men together and convinced the men to commit suicide, to deny the Romans a true victory. Josephus continues to state that the men first killed their families and only 10 men remained. The 10 remaining men drew lots, and one of them killed the other 9 and then committed suicide. So technically, there was only one suicide at Masada, not a mass suicide. Human remains have been found, although it is not to the number of around 1,000 men and women to which Josephus accounts for. And at the northern palace on the lowest terrace were thought by the excavators to be the remains of the last rebel and his family. There was a large mound of chalky dirt mixed with large numbers of artifacts were piled outside of the white plastered stone wall that separated Herod's palace from the rest of the northern palace complex. This pile of dirt and artifacts is believed to be a siege ram, or mound, that the Romans would have created when the Jewish rebels took refuge inside the rooms of the northern palace. If this is a correct interpretation, this means that there was intense fighting and more of like a last battle than a mass suicide at Masada. There was a battle and a siege, and Jews did die. However, the evidence for a mass suicide is still lacking, and it's unknown the accuracy to which Josephus talks about this event. Whether or not the events played out as Josephus said, the memory of Masada is at the heart of Israeli culture. It is encapsulated in a poet saying, "Masada shall never fall again."